Sacred Combat.
Have you ever thought, of course I need God? I'm small and weak. But the legends of Hollywood like Gary Cooper, Lana Turner, Bob Hope, they had it all. Glamour, wealth, and fame. What did they need God for? Well, everything. Mary Claire Kendall, in her book, Oasis Conversion Stories of the Hollywood Legends, tells us the fascinating life stories of an all-star 12. It's a must-read page-turner. Makes a great present, too. Available on Amazon. Welcome to Sacred Combat Radio. I'm Ron Coleman. We've got an excellent show for you today. Some of the topics that we have here are kind of exciting, and some of them are kind of deep. And this one might be, for some youngsters, might be a bit much. But nevertheless, it's a great listen because there's a lesson in here. With me today is Zachary King, a former Satanist, and I guess he held a high office in that realm there. And he's going to talk to us today about what occurred with him in his life, and we're going to get on to the subject of abortion, and something that I've been saying for a long time. And those that know me well. I don't pull any punches with this. There's a satanic sacrifice involved, and this you don't go to abortion clinic for God. There's just some things, and we don't. And me personally, I would not have any idea of some of the things that go on inside, other than what I've heard. So we're going to get with Zachary King. Welcome to the program, and how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Ron.
You're great. You know what? I was looking, like I said before the interview, and I've learned a little bit about you. You started kind of early. It kind of, all of this for you progressed as when you were really young. You know, today kids have the internet. They have all these things that pull you, and they're enticed, they're lures. You know, they drag you around. What happened with you?
If I'd had the internet, I might have even got into it younger, because I started off with this burning desire to find out if magic was real. And I was watching movies and all of that when I was like 6 and 7 years old, wondering, is this something you can really do? And when I was 10 years old, after I'd watched pretty much every movie there was, and all my parents and my pastor, I grew up Baptist, had, convinced me that this was fake. This wasn't something that could really be done. I was just wasting my time watching these movies. But, you're 10 years old. What else do you have to do? You got schoolwork, and you can watch a when So, it's not really, in a sense, a waste of time, because you've got nothing else to do. But when I started to the 5th grade, we started playing a game in the bathroom called Bloody Mary, or I Hate You, Bloody Mary, where you go in, you turn out the lights, and everybody chants Bloody Mary, or I Hate You, Bloody Mary, into the mirror. And you're waiting for the scary face to appear. Well, you realize after a while, after you do this, and every time you do it, you get the scary face, that this might be magic that you're doing, because every time you do it, you get a scary face. And then we're also playing Dungeons and Dragons every weekend, and I'm always the sorcerer or the wizard, because if you're not the magic producer and you're not doing magic for the entire group of people that's playing, then what's the point in playing? Because it's not all that much fun otherwise. And so after a while, I realized, I wonder if magic can be done in real life. I wonder, is this a real thing? Because all the adults say it's fake and false, but they don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is something I can really do, and if I could really do this would be the coolest thing in the world. But I can't tell anybody. So I go off on my own, and I'm in my house one night, and I do a magic spell. I do a spell for money. And the next day I go out and I find a can of tennis balls with a $5 bill in it. And I thought, okay, this is pretty cool, but this could be a coincidence. I'm going to do it again next week. And I did it again, and I found a $10 bill on the side of the road. And I thought, all right, $15, 8 days. This is pretty cool, too. But this could be a coincidence. I'm going to do it one more time. And I did it again in the bathroom at my house. But I did the Bloody Mary chant at the same time. So I did my money spell. I did the Bloody Mary. I got this demonic face to appear. And then I let that demonic face know that I'm doing a spell for money. And then I finished out my money spell. And the next day I went out and I found It looked like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. And I went home that night and did them all. And it looked like Monopoly money or fake money because I had never seen a $100 bill before. And when I unwrapped them all, I had 10 $100 bills. So I had $1,000. And I knew for certain right then, magic was absolutely real. My parents, and I lumped my parents and the pastor in with all adults. I just figured all adults are wrong. You know, magic is absolutely real. Magic is something I can do every day of my life. I could do this every day. I could get $1,000 a day for the rest of my life. I mean, I'm going to be a millionaire in 3 years. I'm going to be driving a Lamborghini in 3 years. You know, you're 10 years old. You're not the brightest bulb. You're not thinking that, where am I going to buy a Lamborghini? How am I going to explain to my parents that I'm driving a Lamborghini around and they're driving around, you know, something else?
Right.
You know, you're not thinking of those things. You're just thinking, I can drive a Lamborghini in 3 years. I'm going to be a millionaire in 3 years. How much money am I going to have by the time I'm 50? You know, I am going to be the richest kid in school. You know, it's like I can do whatever I want, because magic doesn't just give you money. It gives you anything you want. And these are my thoughts at 10 years old. I don't have enough love in my life, so I can get love. I can get money. I can get sex. I can get material goods. You know, whatever I want, I'm going to have it, and no one else can get it. And no adult knows you can get this stuff.
Wow. When you did a spell, these spells, right? This what you would call them?
Yes.
You do spells on individuals, or, I mean, all right, let me back up a second. When you do a spell, are you doing, I've heard all kinds of things. You're not sacrificing anything at this point, are you? You haven't, like no. We've heard tales of eating things you would just be repulsive, or doing something for the blood and all that. It didn't have to happen for you.
No, not at this point. At this point, a spell is very simple. You write some things down on a piece of paper and you say it, or you might burn a piece of paper after you've said some things. The spells are very simple. At 10 years old, you don't know, in a sense, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So your spells are very easy, you know, in what you're doing. As you progress through magic, they get more and more complex.
You know, this is so when you progress, then I guess as you get older, you get a little wiser, and maybe your abilities get a little bit better. Are you contacting an entity? Are they communicating with you at all?
Well, what happens is, like when you do a spell against somebody, like when you curse somebody, basically what you're doing, because a lot of people think that, well, like I'm going to put a curse on Zach, for example. Like somebody's going to put a curse against me. And what they think they're doing is, well, I have the power to say a magic spell, and my power is so great that I'm able, through a few words that I say, to put a curse on this person. But the reality of what they're doing is that they're praying to Satan to attach a demon to me. And that's what a curse basically is. Now there's where staying in a state of grace helps you.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in a state of grace, then they can't attach a demon to me. The demon cannot latch onto me, because if I'm in a state of grace, it's sort of like he has glue on his fingers, but I have an anti-glue substance on me that he cannot attach to. So he's trying to attach himself, but he can't, because I'm in a state of grace.
So you're when you're young like that, of course you're impressionable, and as you get a little older, you realize you have power. You
right.
have a power that you can use. You know. Well,
at least you think you do.
It's the demon that has the power, though. Or is that
right? How? Right. You have no power. You have. I mean, think about, as a human being, what you can do. we don't have any power.
Right.
But Satan lies to us. Satan sells us this package, and the package itself is glittery, and it looks beautiful, and there might be lights on it. It's got a beautiful bow on it, and if you look inside, it looks like there's this bar of gold. If you examine it really close, though, it's probably aluminum foil colored gold. And if you really examine it really closely, it's probably covering like a piece of dog crap. So underneath it doesn't smell good. I certainly wouldn't take a bite of it, and it doesn't really look good upon close examination. But if you look at it from a distance, it looks great. And of course, we all buy it. We all buy into it. Look at the world. Look at what everybody. Look at rock stars that go, absolutely, I want this.
Right.
And tons of rock stars have bought into that. And when you look at the rock stars' lives, and so many of them are alcoholics or drug addicts or going to counseling for the rest of their lives, or dead, and you're thinking, okay, now that rock star has millions of dollars, and they've got 15 sports cars, and they've got they ride everywhere in a giant limousine, and it's got a mansion, but they've been going to counseling for 10 years. Why is that? And it's like, well, because it takes a lot of drugs and a lot of alcohol to forget what it took to get you to where you are.
Many of them are saying they sold their soul to the devil.
Right, exactly.
And they talk about, and recently I've seen them talk about their what they had to do to get that done. Eat feces, they said, and something to do with the blood. And I'm thinking, what in the world? But they wanted the stuff. They wanted the success. They didn't happen overnight for them, I guess. They were tempted they took them on trips. And they fed them, and they made them, see the good things and all of the power money it has, and all of this. We'll sell this, and you'll make all this kind of money. And then that happens, and then I guess they realize that they're stuck.
Have you heard of a guy named Marty Rotella?
No, but I'll research him.
Marty Rotella is now he's Catholic. And I think he's been nominated for 3 Grammys as a Catholic singer. But before he was Catholic, he was offered a deal, and his attorney wasn't able to make the contract signing. So he had the contractor, the attorney for Billy Joel was sitting there, directing him. Like Billy Joel, I guess, has two attorneys, and one of his attorneys was sitting there telling him about this contract. And he said, if you sign this contract, you're selling your soul to the devil. And this guy, and Marty Rotella goes, what'd you say? He said, if you sign this contract, you're signing your soul over to the devil. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I mean, he goes, basically, this is the mafia. If you sign this contract, and let's say, he goes, the mafia shoots porn. So if you sign this contract, you're going to have to write songs for pornos. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, I don't want to do that. He goes, well, it won't matter what you want to do. He says, they'll make you, and he's like, no, you can't make me do that stuff. He goes, well, they will make you. He says, they won't hurt you because you're the meal ticket. He goes, they'll go after your family. They'll hurt one of your family members until you write songs for one of these porno movies. And they will keep hurting your family until you get the idea in your head that this is the power they have. And you write these, for all these porno songs, and it was like, and you got to figure that the mafia is not just involved in regular porn. Mm-hmm. So, your songs that you're writing could end up in any type of form. Not saying that any type of porn is better than any other, but some of it is definitely worse than others.
Right. Yeah. I can think of I can think of a lot of names that are in the music industry today. It came from a background in Disney and some others, and you look at them then, and you look at them now, and like the Miley Cyruses of the world, and what she's doing, and what she's been doing, and so on and so forth. And you look at this, and you think, gosh, how did she get there? And you know, the light starts to come on after a while. You start to begin to see it. You know, the whole music industry. I was shocked when I started hearing names, the Beatles, for example. You know, I remember growing up listening to them, and I guess they have a bit of a history, don't they?
Well, they have. There's a book out about John Lennon, and this would have to be searched because I don't know the name of the book.
Okay.
But I remember hearing the story like in a documentary. And it was one of those documentaries that's anti-rock and roll,
right?
You know, and it's from a Protestant perspective. But in it, it tells about Yoko Ono paying $75,000 to a witch of some sort to put a spell on John Lennon so that he would be more famous than ever.
Right.
And then he was shot, and he died. And then he became more famous than ever.
And that's where you got to...
that's one of those examples of be careful what you ask for.
That's right. That's where I was leading. Be careful what you ask for. The devil isn't stupid in the way, you know, he'll give you, but it may not be the one you want, not the way you want.
Right.
So what's the difference, or is there a difference between the Illuminati, we hear that name a lot, and Satanists and Satanic? Well,
the Illuminati would be a branch of Satanism.
Oh.
The Illuminati is satanic. Satanists are not necessarily members of the Illuminati.
Okay.
The Illuminati is a group that is looking to move Satan's agenda forward. Definitely, I would say that probably 95% of the Illuminati has become possessed. I mean, once you get into a branch of Satanism and you're trying to move Satan's agenda forward, it causes you to get possessed, and you're doing things like when I was a high wizard. That was my position within Satanism.
Is that near the top?
It's the top. There's levels of magic people, of people that do magic for different cults. In my cult, which was the World Church of Satan, or Satan's World Church, the people that did magic for the cult were called high wizards.
Okay. There's
between 2 and 5 in the world, be as low as 1 or as high as 10. They normally don't go higher than 10. And as a rule, you can't have less than 1 because you always have to have somebody that can do magic. So a lot of cults, the high priest or priestess is the top person. In our cult, a high priest or priestess, because a high priest or priestess could be self-appointed. So in our cult, because of that, the high priest or priestess has no power.
Okay.
Because you could be self-appointed, so they don't hold any rank at all. You know, and I think in our cult, we recognize that most cults don't have a high wizard. So, like, we're like the only one. And our cult as well, in 1989, we had 1.1 million members worldwide.
Wow.
So it's a really big, really organized worldwide cult. I mean, like, in 1989, we did not know, like, it seemed like every country in the world had a member of our cult. I mean, a few members of our cult, not just one member, but a few members of our cult. So we're very well organized, and our cult was pretty much out to rule the world. You know, we're out to take over, and seriously went out to.
Man, that's a lot of people, and I kind of get a little better picture here. But there's something going to go. I'm got to change change the gears too much before we get over here to the abortion side, but we're going to experience Satanic Black Mass in Oklahoma City. And let me just give you a little bit, maybe you can help us understand. The event is going to involve an attempted corruption of a plaster statue of the Virgin Mary using sulfur, menstrual blood, and the ashes of a desecrated or burned pages of the Quran. It involves consumption of a pig's heart and the entrapment of the Virgin Mary in a ritual triangle. I guess the statue ends up being smashed. Now, this isn't the first one. This is like, I think it's the second one, isn't it? Down in Oklahoma City when they put their statue up. And I would imagine now there's been some things that have happened since they first time they do their Black Mass, and they've had instances. I'll bet you they contribute some of these instances. Like somebody got their head cut off right after that. I can't remember how long it's been, but all of these are now coincidences. They can't associate these two together, but they can. But as well as I do, there's got to be repercussions from what's happened.
Well, the last, I believe it was the last Black Mass that they had. It was soon after that they had a Muslim asked some guy to convert to the Muslim faith, and when the guy refused, he cut his head off.
Right, that one.
And that was about within 2 weeks of the Black Mass. And of course, obviously that's a coincidence. And it's like I don't know. Could you call that a coincidence?
No, I wouldn't.
Now the things that are happening around the country is that we had the Harvard attempt at having a Black Mass, and that was 3 years ago, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many people that protested. I think things like that, is what staves off final judgment for us. I think that God looks down and we're not so horrible. We didn't embrace that moment. We didn't say, oh yeah, let's do that. We didn't embrace that, and it didn't happen. It didn't take place.
Right.
So, so God was, kind of like, oh, okay, they're not so bad that they embrace that. So let's not throw down lightning bolts and bolt, and fireballs down on them quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that we avoided final judgment with that, and then we have the Baphomet statue that moved from Detroit, not Detroit. It moved to Detroit, but it moved from Oklahoma City, from the courthouse to Detroit, and they actually had to move it into a top secret location because so many people protested it.
Right.
So once again, I think we in a sense we avoided a certain amount of judgment because we didn't praise it. It was praised. It was praised by a group of homosexuals that they started calling homosexuals up on the stage in a private setting.
I remember this.
In a secret setting.
Right.
And homosexuals were committing homosexual acts with each other in front of the Baphomet statue, and you had to agree to sell your soul to Baphomet if you wanted to be at this particular situation where you got to celebrate the Baphomet statue, but it was also top secret. If you wanted to be there, it was like just a select number of people that were allowed to be there. And even now, the statue is in like a top secret situation or place. And now the leader of I don't believe that these two satanic societies are connected. Other than through Satan.
You mean Detroit and Oklahoma City?
Right. Detroit and Oklahoma City. I don't believe that it's the same person. The guy that's in charge of Oklahoma City is a pedophile.
Yes.
And that can be looked up. That's public record.
Right.
And it's just amazing to me that they have a pedophile in control, and yet everybody still is okay with that. It's like here you have this pedophile that's in control, he's in charge, they have a satanic cult with a convicted pedophile, and people still show up to his meetings. And he has said children are allowed to show up. I'm like, why would children be allowed to be within 1,000 feet of you?
Well, that's going to lead me into the next one here in just a second. But is pedophilia a part of it, or no?
Well, pedophilia is always a part of Satanism.
Okay.
I mean, in the first satanic cult I belonged to was called Teoto and Diablo Sex. The second one I belonged to was called World Church of Satan, Satan's World Church, and Diablo Sex. Diablo Sex is usually an undercurrent name. Anybody that embraces that as one of their names, Diablo Sex cult embraces child prostitution, child pornography,
mm-hmm.
and human trafficking.
Yeah.
You can find Diablo Sex cults on the net.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, these cults are not embracing Diablo Sex as their name, but cults could be getting away from that name now because I'm making that public.
Right.
It was like, I'm coming out saying, oh, if you embrace this name, this is why you're embracing it. It's like if you think about what is child pornography in the first place,
mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like it's satanic. Why wouldn't Satan be involved in this? It's disgusting.
It is. It's dark. It's, but you're using one person for something else. You mentioned sex trafficking, and
right.
that would involve probably having to force them to do what they're doing.
Right.
To then be a victim. And let me ask you something else, because this is probably one of those things that we're leading into something, and we're being actually pushed into a corner, in my opinion. We're hearing Satanists now wanting to get into the schools, into the after-school programs. This has been the big thing here the last few weeks since it got announced. And the Satanists themselves are saying, no, we're not really Satanists in that regard. We just don't, and the ultimate goal is to get you, me, those to just get rid of Christianity out of the schools. Now, I don't buy all that myself, but yeah, they're wanting to get into the after school programs next to the kids.
I think that the goal there, I think the goal is twofold. I think that if they can push the Christians out, that would be a goal. I mean, if they can get the Christians to say, okay, you're right, if we pull out, you'll pull out, and that'll be a worthwhile goal. They'll eliminate the Satanists by the Christians pulling out.
Mm-hmm.
But, kids always gravitate to what is dark, and that is true. They would gravitate to the Satanists if they could, because that's dark and exciting.
Right.
So I could see the Christians, but the Satanists are already in the school. So, in a sense,
they're in the books, aren't they? They're in the lessons. They're in the books.
Right, and they're in Harry Potter.
Yes.
They're in Harry Potter, and Harry Potter's in the school. My opinion, what I've been pushing, and I've already had a couple of interviews on other radio stations, is that I've said, okay, the Protestants have an after-school club, so the kids have heresy that they can go to, and they have Satanism they can go to. How come we don't have Catholic after-school care? Why don't we give them authentic Christianity?
Well, that's true.
How come they only have two choices to go to? How come they don't have three?
Do you think that?
Why don't we?
Well, they're having so much trouble right now in anything to do with God in a building that's a school. I mean, and the problems that have resulted since the 60s and the 50s when they started pulling out God out of the schools. Now look what there are. It's a mess. And it's not getting any better. But, it's hard enough. It's like right now, do you feel like an atheist that goes into a meeting You know, like like some of the meetings that they have of the government, the city halls, and wants to do I don't know, maybe they're doing their black magic, their speeches, their prayers, and this is a way for them to have to quit praying altogether. They have to accept them or quit. So do you think an atheist in this regard is a Satanist in the same sense, or no?
Well, I think that like a lot of like their advertisement that they use, like, you know, they're going to show science. Well, to me, science proves that God's real.
Right.
So they're lying there. So that you can't prove God doesn't exist with science, because science does prove God exists. My old Satanist cult, my second one. I tell people to think of it, and I do this in all talks. You have to think of it as 3 buildings, all of them pushed up against each other, all of them with privacy fences. So each one of them thinks they're the only house. Mm-hmm. Each house attacks, and they think that they're the only attack that's going on. So 2 are abutted by the back to back against each other. The third one is on the end, and it's against the other 2. That one that's against the other 2 is writing material, and it puts out papers, essays, movies, and basic films, and sends out speakers. And all these materials it puts out is on communism, socialism, atheism, and New Age materials. So that means that when you're sending out atheists to speak, and they're speaking to schools, and they're doing debates, and they're debating Christians, and they're debating Catholics, and they're telling them that there's no heaven or hell, God or the devil.
Right.
And they've got all these great arguments about what there's not any of. These people are Satanists. Mm-hmm. They know there is a God, there is a devil, there is a heaven, there is a hell. But they have a quota to fill.
Oh, they do.
They have to say this stuff.
They have a quota.
They have a quota to fill, and they have to say that there's all this stuff because they have a certain amount of money they have to make, and they want to make it that month, and they want to make it that year, and they know they're going to hell. When they die, they know they're going to hell.
So who would be the payer? Who is the one that finances them in that way?
My satanic cult. They just work for my cult.
I got it. Okay. I can't. There's a story today. And by the way, we're speaking with Zachary King here as our guest this afternoon, a former Satanist and now a Catholic, and we're going to get to the other part of his story here in just a minute. But we've got on to some current topics that I'm so interested in finding out what in the world's going on. Today, one of the stories on our site, sacredcombat.com, was they've been suing. The atheists have been suing. They've been suing. In this case, they sued a sheriff, and his city had to pony up some money because of a post on Facebook. It was an Easter post, a little bit religious, and they sued him, and they won. And they're suing because you have a cross on your car, a patrol car, or you have a cross on a building, or you have anything else, and they're using the church and state as an excuse. But this is a war. I mean, they are going after people financially in order to force you into relinquishing any kind of memory. I'm talking about, you know what I mean? It is as if there is a fervor. It has happened over the last few years. It is getting more and more intense. Do you feel it? I just feel it every day.
It is. It is sort of like the pendulum swung one way and now it's going back the other way. And it seems like the devil seems to know what he can do now. And it's as if as well that the devil knows that, his time is very short. And, in a sense, we have that to look forward to.
Right.
I mean, I think people are looking at a lot of things the wrong way. you're looking at, well, the devil knows his time is short, and so but people don't look at that as positive. They look at it as though he's attacking us so much because his time is short. It's like, right, his time is short. That means our time is short too.
We fear.
Look at this and don't fear. Mm-hmm. His time is short. He has a very short time to attack us. Don't fear that. He's got a short time to attack us, so enjoy the short time that he's attacking us, and enjoy the short time that you have to fight back. It's like if he's got a short time to attack us, then you have a very short time to be attacked. Revel in that. Thank God for that. And let him attack whatever he's going to do. Let him do it. Fighting back, and I don't understand. There's a lot of people's attitudes that is, it's like, let him attack. Attacking is what he does. If he's attacking you, you're doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't like you, praise God. You've done your job. If he's not attacking you, you need to do something. You need to change something that you're doing, because you're not doing your job. You're doing a crappy job.
Right.
You're doing a damn crappy job if he's not touching you. If he's looking at you going, I got no reason to attack you, because I know that on Judgment Day, God will vomit out the lukewarm. If you're lukewarm, you need to change something.
We've got a big push for suicide as well as abortion now. They're talking to them in a way that they're doing them a favor and taking them out in suicide now. It's getting, you know what I mean? It's like I said, it's because I think like you said, the end is near. We never would have thought about suicide, assisted suicide a few years ago. They were throwing people in jail for that. And by the way, I'm really glad you're on our side. You've come a long way. And speaking of that, so getting back to your story just a little bit here, you had been practicing and got into a high level. Well, how did you get turned around? How did you fight back?
What happened to me is that I had been in Satanism for about 26 years, and that's organized Satanism. I had been in from 10 to 12. I had not been in organized Satanism. When I was 12, I got recruited into my first cult. I joined when I was 13. I was in that till I was about 18. I joined my second cult when I was 18. I was in that till I was about 33. I escaped out when I was 33, and I kind of hid. I kind of worked and was off the grid for a couple of years, and then just kind of hid till I was about 40. And I reinvented myself. So I had friends that thought they knew me for a few years, but in reality, was just I was a person that, in a sense, didn't exist. I had become somebody new, and but the person that I invented wasn't real. Mm-hmm. And then I was a manager in a mall, and in a place called Piercing Pagoda in South Burlington, Vermont. And this woman came up, did a purchase, and at the end of the purchase, she said, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And she pulled out this miraculous medal, and blessed miraculous medal, and I had no idea what that was. And I didn't know who the Blessed Mother was either. And I had grown up Baptist, and I'm thinking ISIS guy is coming up with any name I can for Blessed Mother. And she said it was really powerful, and I'm thinking she represents some female deity cult, and my mind just starts to wonder. I'm like, I don't even know what she's talking about. And she keeps talking, and my mind just kind of wonders. I'm just thinking, why'd all the crazy people come to me? And and then eventually I tune back in because I'm thinking, why is she still standing here? And she tells me again that it's very cool. And I'm like, oh, why? And so I'm convinced that I'm going to touch this thing. I'm going to feel nothing from it. So I'm just going to take it and toss it on my floor, slam it on the counter, and tell her that it's worthless. And I stick my hand out. She drops in my hand, and I clench my fist around it. and my store and my mall disappear. Everything's gone, and it's just me and this woman that gave it to me. And it's just like, I'm terrified. She starts naming all this stuff that I've done. She says that I've helped commit 140 or over 100 abortions. And
Wow.
that's of the devil. I've broken up over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. She names like 10 other things I've done. She says, and all of them she ends it with, and that's of the devil. And I'm like terrified. And, you know, and I want to let go of the metal, but I don't want to because I'm scared of what's going to happen to me if I do that. And she says again, the Blessed Mother's calling you into her army. And I know instantly that's the Mother of God. And as soon as I know that's the Mother of God, Mary shows up.
Whoa.
I see Mary. I see Mary right there in front of me. And as soon as I know that it's the Mother of God and Mary shows up, she takes me by the hand and she gently turns me around, and Divine Mercy Jesus is standing right behind me. And I'm watching, these rays are going through me, around me, over me, under me. And I realize in that instant, I didn't sell my soul when I was 13. All my New Age, all my Satanism, all my magic, just everything that is Zachary King is a lie.
Right.
All fake. And I stop all that, and I realize that everything that is Catholic is truth. And then the Blessed Mother tells me that my job is to help her end abortion. I open up my hand, and I'm standing back in my mall. Jesus and Mary are gone. And this woman is still telling me about where she goes to Mass, and I start going to daily Mass the next day.
How about that? That is incredible. Not everybody gets that experience. People don't get that treatment.
If anybody really has, I mean, because there's a lot of stuff about me on the internet, but if you go to allsaintsministry.org, you know, my story is there. That's my website. It's got an intro to me, and I've got right now 42 videos up. So if anybody's got like, what do I do with a cursed object, or a cursed object that I didn't buy, you know, or you know, whatever the occult question is, we have a bunch of stuff there.
We've got him linked over at sacredcombat.com right there on the top. You can't miss him. Big picture of him as well. Yeah, Zachary's a big guy. You won't miss him. So you know this. We get into the abortion business. You mentioned that you know, you had some abortions as well as that. We know that this is a dark area. Then we have a battle going on all the time, and we do what we can, but we're getting flack even when you win a little war, when it comes to getting them to clean up their facilities, or we take care of getting them so they could go to a hospital if they cut them up too badly. They fight that. There's so much fight going on even among the politicians. So you're one of the major things, one of the major issues you're going to find in the abortion industry is that the people themselves that are anti-abortion, that they're pro-life, but they don't embrace spiritual warfare. They don't believe that that Satanists are against or are in favor of abortion. Is that for some reason they don't get that, you know, like Satanists actually go out and embrace Planned Parenthood. right.
You know, they go out to Planned Parenthood and they demonstrate. You know, like we had the milk process, but where they went out and Satanists got down on their knees and they poured milk on them as if they were waterboarding them.
Right.
Or they all dressed as babies and ran around in a circle, you know, and did mockery, you know, of that sort. Or they went out and you know, there's other ceremonies. Or the back in August of last year, the Wiccans went out and said that abortion is a woman's sacrament and should be allowed to take place. Or I think it was Minnesota, the Satanists sent a woman in to get an abortion, and they told her she had to wait 2 weeks and she had to read some material. So they sued the governor of the state and said that it's a woman's right under her satanic beliefs to get an abortion on demand.
There it is.
And then if you go to the Detroit chapter of Satanists, and look up the 5 things they believe in, the number one thing they believe in is a woman's right to have an abortion. The next thing they believe in is a right to contraception. All 5 things they believe in have to do with abortion. But yet you have the people that will protest you for saying they believe that Satanists believe in abortion. And that's who you're fighting. You could be fighting Catholics.
We are.
Your own people. You're going to fight your own people that claim you're wrong. And not only are they claiming that you're wrong as a Catholic for believing those things, they're fighting Satanists who say these things, because now they're calling Satanists wrong for believing these things. So you feel like they're calling you incorrect or you're a liar. But not only are you incorrect or a liar, but Satan is incorrect or a liar. Now, we know he's a liar, but these Satanists are incorrect or a liar because they believe these things. And it's like, wait a minute. These are the guys that actually believe this stuff, and you're saying that they're believing incorrectly?
We've got Catholics.
Wrong.
Catholics. Nancy Pelosi, Biden, for example, too. Catholics.
Oh, come on. These aren't real Catholics. Come on.
They're by name. I mean, people look at them and they say, well, these two are Catholics, and look what they go do. Look what they believe in. I'm with you. They can't be real Catholic. Of course not. But here they are.
I have Nancy Pelosi won I think it was the 2015 Margaret Sanger Award.
She sure did.
And she said in her winning speech that the people that believe in abortion are dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Well, her being Catholic, that means she just called the Pope dumb.
Right. She had an interview not long ago that she said that the Catholic Church has never decided when life began. And I don't know what Joe Biden's trip is,
that's
but
not true either.
Oh, I know, but that's what she was saying, and it was I forgot who it was that interviewed her, but no, the bishops were all over about that. But that's what she said, and so the general public look at that and they say, well, she's a Catholic, they must believe in, and they don't know the difference. So you're leading people away, you're leading people astray, and it's all it's frustrating for me because, we're fighting, and it's our own people don't seem to be giving you anything. They're the ones, your own people, the opposition. Well, they're not really Catholics, of course not, but people don't know that.
Well, that's cafeteria Catholics. It's like the people that walk through a cafeteria and go, well, I'll take the fluffy cake and the cupcake and the cookie, but I'll leave that salad and the steak and the vegetables, I'll leave that stuff there. So it's like I'll leave the catechism and the Bible, and I'll take the song and the dance.
And they don't.
Obviously, though.
Well, Joe Biden just did a gay ceremony, and that pretty much speaks for itself. When it comes to an abortion center, not to change the subject, but I want to hit on that real quick. Inside an abortion clinic, there was a Satanist not long ago. I did a story, link to it on our site, and he was actually in a Planned Parenthood facility, and he was working there, and that was part of his job. What is it that's going on in these places?
Well, for the most part, for most of them, there's an actual abortion, at least one abortion doctor, and there's multiple abortion nurses. There's a counselor that's sort of like a grief counselor, except they don't explain the actual grief process to the person. Their job is to get them to accept that they want to have an abortion. They go in and they convince the person that doing the abortion is what they want to do. And obviously they want to do this because they're getting at least $1,000 per abortion.
Oh, is that much? Wow.
Yeah, it's if you think about how many abortions are done per year, and how much Planned Parenthood is making, like $1 billion per year just in abortions.
They did almost $1 million last year. Almost a million.
and then you look at the 335 million that they're given every year by the government.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you look at other money that they make for other things, and it's like it's a crazy amount of money that they make every year. It's just insane. But they have you have the secretary at the front desk. Most of them have a very truthful sign somewhere that'll say "No children allowed." And that's an incredibly honest sign. They truly mean that from the bottom of their heart. The waiting room, a lot of them now have bulletproof glass because, the shootings and things that have occurred.
Sure.
You walk around the desk area and the bulletproof glass, and you walk down a hallway. A lot of them used to have a prayer room, which was really odd. And I don't know what that room is actually used for.
Never used, I suppose.
A lot. Yeah, cobwebs in that room, probably.
Yeah.
Cobwebs and dust. So they have multiple rooms so that they can, in theory, do a few of these at a time, even though they usually don't have multiple doctors there at once. And then the rooms where the abortions happen are usually disgusting. I've been in rooms that had blood on the ceiling.
That's what they wanted to clean up. You know what I mean? That's what the legislation was all about.
It's like, what went wrong? Like, I walked into a room that looked like somebody walked in there with rollerblades and 2 buckets of blood and just spun in a circle.
Man.
And it's like, how did you accomplish that? Honestly, how did you get blood on the ceiling? That's just a mystery. And then you have at least one bathroom, and then you have storage rooms, and you have a lot of medical equipment in a lot of the rooms. So a lot of the rooms don't have any medical equipment, and they actually wheel it in from some other rooms because certain procedures take certain equipment, and it's not needed in every procedure. And then there's like 7 different types of abortion, and not every, they don't have all 7 types of abortion equipment in the same room. And then
so this is a
yes.
sacrifice.
It is a satanic sacrifice, and a lot of the places have at night, when the place closes down, you have either a satanic ceremony or a Wiccan ceremony takes place. Now, the Wiccans got mad at me last August. I was interviewed in the Lepanto Institute article that talked about ex-Satanist alleges or claims he did abortions in abortion clinics. And that was like their #1 rated interview of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wiccans came out against me and said that obviously I don't know anything that I'm talking about, that the Wiccans would never do abortions, and they would never come out in an abortion clinic, and I'm totally wrong. And within 7 days, because that came out on like a Monday or Tuesday, by Saturday, the abortion showed up, the Wiccans showed up at a Wiccan clinic, at a Planned Parenthood clinic, and said that abortions are a woman's sacrament. And all of a sudden, my attack stopped. I got no more attack after that because the Wiccans actually went to a Planned Parenthood and said these things. So then it turned out that I was right, that they do say these things. And I was also being attacked by the Satanists because they also came out and said, oh no, Satanists love everyone and would never hurt a soul and love animals and love people and love babies, and they would never hurt anybody. And the Satanists actually showed up at that same Planned Parenthood on the same day, and also made their statement at the same Planned Parenthood that said that people have the right to get their abortion at a Planned Parenthood. And so my attack stopped from both groups on the same day. So
they're doing rituals inside the facilities?
Right, they do rituals inside the facilities.
Oh man, do they ever do them while they're doing an abortion? Because there's
at times.
Oh, at times.
At times, and And what I've said happens, and I've done this in my talks, is that I say that many times these things happen at night after hours. Like I would go in with a group of people that the woman knows what she's doing. She knows that she's given this baby over to the devil. It's not like it's an unknown ceremony. The woman knows what she's doing. Everybody that's in there knows the reason for the sacrifice. I'm going in to facilitate this, and the doctor's there. Everybody knows the reason for the abortion. Usually that's done after hours, but these things do sometimes occur during the day. I do have a story. I've done 3 of these that failed. And all 3 of them that failed, the basic story of the 3 that failed for me is I went there during the day. One of them that failed, there's a biker gang, a satanic biker gang on our side of the street that's making rude gestures, flicking cigarettes, yelling, cussing the people out across the street. And the people across the street they're praying, or I guess they're praying, but they're using some kind of a prayer rope thing that I don't know what that is. Apparently it's a rosary, but I didn't know that at the time. We go upstairs, and most high wizards have what's called a handler. The handler gets you whatever you need. So if you want drugs or whatever it is you need, that's what your handler's for. So my handler's name is Alex. And we look across the street because the people across the street praying with the ropes all drop to their knees. And they're chanting something. And we can hear them chanting, but we can't hear what they're chanting. So we open the window up. We got this large jalousie window. We open the window up, crank it open to see what are they saying. Because they drop to their knees and they're still praying with these ropes. And we're Satanists. We recognize chanting. So, and I start repeating what I hear. And I hear, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus." This doesn't make any sense to me. I grew up Baptist. I've never been to a Catholic church. I have no idea what that means. My handler repeats, "Holy Mary, Mother of God," and the rest of it. And we just look at each other like, what the heck does that mean? And we don't know. We laugh it off and close the window. Then we go back, and I'm standing there with the abortion doctor. The woman has been there for a bit. She claims she's dilated and ready to go. The doctor checks her, and he's like, "You're not dilated yet." You are he says, "You are dilated. The baby's not in the birth canal." So she starts screaming, "Baby's in the birth canal. You need to get going." So he checks. He's like, "No, you're not ready yet." So she looks at me. She's like, "What's your story? You should go ahead and check." I was like, "Well, he's the doctor. He would know." And she's like, "No, you need to check." I was like, "All right, fine." So I check. I was like, "No, it's not ready yet. I've done this before. You're not ready yet." She's yelling at me. She's calling me an idiot. He starts laughing. I said, "Well, you check." He said, "I just checked." So he checks. He's like, "Baby's not in the birth canal yet." So she's yelling. She's like, "What, are you an idiot? Is this your first rodeo? Come on, let's go." This woman she's done 9 abortions.
Oh, my God.
So she's done this before. She knows what she's doing. She's yelling, "The baby's in the birth canal. It's coming out now." Doctor checks again. He says it's not there. I check again. No, baby's not there. As we're talking, the baby drops out.
Oh.
The baby was in the birth canal. It was beyond the birth canal. And at my cult, if the baby comes out, it goes to a good home. We wouldn't kill it once it comes out. It gets adopted at that point, and not to a Satanist. Satanists don't want the baby. It goes to a decent home. But the baby had to have been in the birth canal.
You just didn't see it.
The baby, we didn't see it, we didn't feel it, and we didn't see it or feel it because people were praying rosaries outside. I mean, to your listeners that are thinking, Protestants are always going, "Oh, you're embarrassing yourself by praying that rosary out here." You're not embarrassing yourself. You're saving babies.
Right. Wow.
That story is not on my disc. I have a disc called "Abortion is a Satanic Sacrifice." And we tell you on the disc how to legally shut down an abortion clinic through spiritual warfare. That story is not on, and I tell that story when I do my talks. But, if you have listeners out there that are looking to shut down abortion clinics,
I bet they are.
They absolutely have to get a copy of that disc.
Okay. Tell them again your the website address.
It is allsaintsministry.org.
And you've got many videos there, and a way to become militant in a way, to fight back. And we believe, actually. I mean, yes, you have to fight back. We believe in fighting the culture of death, one soul at a time. Mm-hmm.
But we believe that if you're going to fight, we don't believe in like defending yourself in this like culture war. We believe in you armor yourself up, you pull your sword out, and you chase that bastard down, and you beat him to death.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the devil here. Don't be afraid of him. Do you know what age you were when the devil started attacking you? And take your age and add 9 months to it. That's how old you were when the devil started attacking you.
Before you were ever born.
But he didn't wait for you to turn 18. He didn't wait for you to start first grade. He didn't even wait for you to be born. As soon as he knew that your mom was pregnant, he started telling her, you can't afford it. Your mom will kick you out of the house. Your dad won't love you. Your husband, your boyfriend is going to leave you. Whatever the case is, that's what he was whispering. It's like, if you're listening to this message right now, you need to go home and kiss your mom and thank her for having you,
exactly,
for not aborting you. It's like this was a serious war before you were born, 9 months before you were born. This is what the war was and still is. He still continues to hit you. Don't think, well, I don't want to hit the devil because I don't want him to hit me back. He started hitting you first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you need to start hitting him back. Don't think of it as, well, I don't want him to hit me. He's already hitting you. He's already attacking you. It's like, don't be afraid of what he might do. He's already doing what he's going to do.
People live in denial. There is no Satan. There is no anything. They're living in a lot of people anyway are living in a world in their own. That nothing exists. That's what they're taught, and that's what they believe. So they don't even understand. And this is the hardest thing, is to get them to see that this is not. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it isn't existing. That doesn't mean that it didn't always exist before you were ever born. It's a frustrating deal, and I work hard and try to point these things out. I mean, you can look on television, you can watch these ghost adventure shows, and you see things happening. There's demonic entities in there. If you want to look at it that way, I guess you could go that way to prove to yourself there's something going on. But it's very difficult for people who have their eyes and their ears on a gadget all the time to ever come out long enough to pay attention. People are falling off of cliffs. They're falling into manhole covers, playing their iPads. We're just living in a different age, and it's
right.
We're gonna have to eventually. I mean, as a Catholic, you understand these because you're catechized. You understand these things. You knew a long time ago what had happened and how things got started. When did Satan start? Start at the beginning. And I tell people, life is so important. You don't realize how long it took God to get Mary where she was. How many generations did he have to go to get her to be sinless in order to have Jesus? You see, and they don't understand. They're killing the very future of what we are here in their kids. These people that they're killing are going to be your firemen. They're going to be your pro-life people. They're going to be your presidents. They're going to be your leaders. They're going to be somebody that's going to roll up in an ambulance, jump out, and save your butt. And people don't see it that way. And until they do, the whole problem is whether in my opinion, abortion, fighting it to be legal or illegal is really an uphill battle to get the women to stop wanting to do it. The whole thing, they want to do it, and that is where the temptation comes, I think. Isn't it? Isn't that where the Satan starts? Putting it in your head?
I think there are so many angles. There's not just that. I mean, yes, there's that, but there's not just, I think let's go back to why does he want that?
Yeah.
Like what would be the reason? What would be the reason why he would want that? Because I think his reasoning of why might tell us, then why. That would tell us why on a lot of reasons. I mean, like we in our CD set, we bring up that in the Bible verse that says when Jesus says, "Behold, these little ones have an angel in heaven that beholds the face of my Father," and it tells you not to hurt these little ones because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That when Jesus said that, he wasn't just talking about children that had been born.
Right.
Now, if that's true, then that means that since 1973, 57 million babies have been killed that had angels in heaven that beheld the face of his Father.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us as a society, as human beings, as people that have been born? What does having 57 million babies murdered mean for us?
It's not good.
But now it's not good. But do you have any children?
Yes.
Okay, how old are they?
Oh, he'll be 12. She's 17. She's stepdaughter.
Okay. So your 12 and 13-year-olds, when they were 5, you had 2 very mighty warriors to pray for you. When they were young, even if you didn't tell them what they were praying for, you had 2 very mighty warriors. All you had to do was have them pray for your intentions.
I see.
And you had 2 very innocent. And when they were 3, their prayers were even more powerful. And if you could get them to pray when they were 2, then it was even more powerful. And it was just incredibly powerful.
I see.
The point that I'm making here is that the more innocent the child, the more hardcore the prayer.
Right.
So what we bring up in the CD is that when the child is in the womb, why couldn't the guardian angel of that child, because you get your guardian angel the instant you blink into conception. The instant you're conceived, you get a guardian angel. So why couldn't you ask the guardian angel at conception to pray for anything?
Good. If I'd have never thought of it that way.
So we actually what we bring up in the CD set, the priests that we've talked to say that it's biblically sound, and that they admit that they've never thought of it.
See, I didn't.
And the seminarians we talked to mention that they've never thought of it. Like, no one that's ever listened to the set has said they've ever thought of this.
Right.
So this is like this new idea that no one's ever thought of, that the guardian angel would ask the baby to pray for something. Why wouldn't God listen to that prayer on whatever level God allows that prayer to be listened to? That he would allow that little child to pray to him. And because he has an angel that beholds his face at all times, he would listen to that prayer. we allowed, and we committed murder to 57 million babies.
Right.
57 million prayer warriors.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's what we allowed Satan to get rid of. Now, if you go back to the reason for that, it's because Satan didn't want abortion to end. Because 57 million prayer warriors, I think, could have shut down the abortion industry. And after we shut that down, what else could we have done? I would think we could do anything.
So what about Monday night's Black Mass? They're going to be having their desecrated and burned pages of the Quran, which is going to involve Muslims. And now we've got Catholics, Satanists, and Muslims. What do you think?
You better be armed, because if the Muslims show up armed, they're going to think it's a 2-for-1 sale. We can get the Satanists that burned our book, and we can get the Catholics that are there to protest.
Yeah, this incident is going to have. See, it's going to be Monday. I had some notes on it here a little bit ago. They've got a lot of things on here. You mentioned the Quran being burnt. What's the purpose of the Quran? I see some other things. Pig's heart. There it is. The pig's heart being consumed. Menstrual blood, ashes. It's ashes of a desecrated and burned pages of the Quran. What would be the issue with the Quran?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense, because late last year, when the Christmas party, there was the Christmas party that happened in California, and then there was a couple of members of an Islamic sect, basically, shot up. The next day they went to the Christmas party, what was left of the people that were there, and they shot up some members. And they shot up some people it was like a special needs place, but they didn't shoot the special needs people. They shot whatever people were still at, that had to show up for work the next day. So then that pissed off people so bad that people were mad at Muslims, and the Satanists up north said they would escort Muslims to work. And this was Satanists offering to escort Muslims different places. So you have Satanists escorting Muslims places, and then down south you have Satanists burning a Quran.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
No. I don't know why. I mean, a Bible, not that it's right, but I can understand almost how they would feel, about catechism, a Bible. I'm on that catechism, but I don't know either. I don't know why they would. What's the purpose of using the sulfur?
I don't know that either, except that it represents hell.
Okay. This is an odd thing. I don't know why they do, except that this is this is mocking a mass. Boiled down to this is mocking a Catholic mass.
The Black Mass does. The rest of it really doesn't.
So this is extra.
The Hindu ceremony has nothing to do with the Black Mass. It's actually separate. The Hindu ceremony has a female goddess that is supposed to be the woman that dictates all the female goddesses of the world. So if you worship a female goddess of the world, and you worship somebody that she decides is not an authentic goddess, then she's allowed to kill that goddess if she wants. So what she's doing at the Feast of the Assumption is she has decided to call it the Feast of the Consumption, and she will kill Mary and send her to hell.
Whoa.
So that's what all that ceremony is for. But it doesn't make sense that she's decided to dip pages of a Quran in menstrual blood and rub it on the statue and destroy the statue, and that somehow, I mean, the only thing I can imagine that this is a magic spell of some kind, because you can't actually, well, Mary's not a goddess, but
isn't it true that well, isn't it true the Muslims, they know Mary, they know of Mary,
right? They do know Mary, but the Muslims also would not desecrate Mary.
Okay, well, that's true. That's true.
They hold her, they venerate her as well. And to me, this is like pulling down the wrath of the Muslims on you.
Yeah, this is odd, because somebody that they venerate, now they're wanting to do, I don't know, that I kind of fear what might happen here. Like you said, I'm sure that the Muslims know about this, and they may get a little ugly over there, and I hope not. I wish there's a way they could stop it, but they can't. Don't look like they'll be the second one now. I don't think they can stop them.
But what I said in I did a radio interview a few weeks ago, and I told the Catholics that I said this looks like it's going to be a war between the Satanists and the Muslims. And I said, I can't imagine Satanists not being armed. And I know the Muslims are armed.
Sure.
So I said the Catholics ought to sit this one out. I said we ought to be there. We ought to be armed. But we ought to set it out. I said, and whenever they're done, whoever's left, then we should convert them. Whoever's left, we should try and convert them.
I want to thank you, Zachary. Zachary King is our guest, former Satanist, now a Catholic, and I'll tell you something, he's got some great life lessons. That one right there, for example, probably not something people think about, but that is very powerful. And I invite you to, if you get lost, go to sacredcombat.com. We're going to have a big link up there with Zachary's face on it. You can click away. You can go straight to his site. And Zachary, give us your site again.
It's allsaintsministry.org.
Okay. God bless you, man. You got quite a life going on there, and I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad you're on our side. Did you? Before we go, did you ever have any Padre Pio incidents? Padre Pio, he had fights all the time. He was always having something out, duking it out. In the middle of the night, he's always having a problem with the devil. Did you ever have any instances where you got touched, scratched, pushed, beaten up?
I've had one.
Oh, wow.
One instance with a demon where I got my legs swept and landed on my head, and my wife watched it happen, and she was just like, what the heck?
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ron Coleman, Sacred Combat.